Hey friends, it's Anita Cordell here, and I'm on my third video on the video series or the vlog series called So You Want to Be an Actor. And today's video is going to be talking all about agencies. So again, just to kind of update you, if this is your first video that you've watched, I get a lot of emails, probably weekly, from people who have a desire to be an actor or desire to be in commercials, whatever, and they just don't know how to start. And so I felt like I wanted to do a little vlog series and talk a little bit about some of my experiences and give you some insight into some steps that need to be done in this series, So You Want to Be an Actor. And keep in mind, I'm really focusing more on film and commercial because stage acting is a little different, but some of the tips that I have and that I'll be talking about can apply to you if you're wanting to be a stage actor, but I'm more so focusing on film and commercial. So today we're going to talk about agencies and what you do to get one, why it's important to have one, what they do for you, fees involved, and all sorts of stuff like that. So bear with me if there's something that I'm talking about that you already know. Skip forward a little bit if you want, and hopefully this won't be too long for you. So first of all, the first video that I talked about was getting headshots, and it's very important to have a professional headshot. The second one was talking about resumes and you know, how to formulate a resume and why that's important. So when you're talking about agencies, wherever you live, there's probably a talent agent that is near where you're at. And some people I have heard have to drive, you know, an hour away for an agent or whatever if you live in a small rural city. But if you live in a somewhat large metropolitan area, even in the Midwest, like Tulsa and Oklahoma City and Kansas City and Des Moines, there are talent agents out there. So what you want to do is you want to start talking to those people who are around you, who you know that are doing commercial work or film work, and start getting some feedback on agents that are in that area or in that city. And whether you're even in a bigger area, start getting referrals on who is good and what are some pros and cons to the specific agents and what have you. So when I've sat down with people who do not have an agent yet, and when I've shared with them my experiences with agencies, I have several, and when I share with them my agency experience, I can share with them pros and cons about various things. And it's really up to you what type of an agent that you want. Do you want a bigger agent where there's a larger pool of talent that agency represents? Do you want an agent that focuses on modeling? Do you want an agent that focuses on voiceovers? Do you want a smaller agency where you might get submitted for more jobs, but that agency might not be the top choice agency if you do a Google search for that city? So all of those take pros and cons. When you are submitting to an agency, and when I mean submit, you have to actually, you know, there has to be a win-win. So you choose what agency you want to submit to, and that agent chooses what talent they want to have on their roster. And so, for example, if they have a very large pool of talent that's already women who are, can say there's around 30 years of age with brown hair and brown eyes and white, and you submit to them and you fit into that profile, they might already look at their roster and they might say, you know what, we already have tons of your profile, although you look great and your headshots are great and your resume is great, we already have and we don't need your type. So you might have to go to another agency who doesn't have that much of a pool selection, and therefore they might say, oh my goodness, we need more people that are your type. Let me bring you on the roster, and here is my contract. So that is something that you have to do. Now, I will say this, that getting a referral from someone to that agent about yourself is good. However, most agencies have a standard operating procedure or an SOP that they like for actors to follow when you are submitting. So you'll have to go to their website and there's usually some instructions on how to submit yourself. So now that you have your resume and now that you have a good headshot, you can submit yourself to that agency, and basically you're auditioning. That's one of your first auditions for an agent. So you submit yourself to that agent, and they have strict instructions on how they want you as a talent to submit. You can't just necessarily pick up the phone call and say, hi, I want to meet with you, because then they would get phone call after phone call all day long, and they wouldn't be able to get take phone calls from clients who are actually wanting to book talents. So they do that not because you're unimportant or not because you're not great or all of that. They do that because they have a standard operating procedure that is best fit for their agent. And plus two, to be honest with you, a lot of these talent agents, they want to see who's going to follow instructions, and they want to see who's going to actually do what they ask you to do. So if they say, send me a hard copy of your headshot and your resume and send it to this address, and then a talent agent or a talent comes through and doesn't know them and doesn't have a relationship with them, and they pick up the phone call or they email them and don't follow the instructions, that can actually boot you out of their roster really quick. So follow the instructions, because that's also what they're looking for. Once you've submitted and a talent agent picks up the phone and says, hey, we'd like for you to come in and meet with us, you're going to meet with them one-on-one typically, and sometimes they'll have you audition for them, so you might want to have a monologue, or they might send you a commercial side to have prepared, and they want to see how you present yourself. My suggestion is at this point you need to start getting some training, or at least know what you're doing, or do some Google searches on how to have a conversation with an agent. It is not scary. They are people just like you and me, and they want to, if they've called you in for a one-on-one, they want to be able to represent you. They want to root for you. So hopefully it's a win-win for everybody there. So don't be afraid. Just go in, meet with them, be yourself. If you're fun and you have a little bit of a light personality, use that personality. If you are more so of a type that is hardcore, or maybe you're a wrestler or something like that, just be yourself. Just be yourself to the agent, because they cannot represent you fully if you are trying to be something that you're not. So be yourself, dress professionally, and just go in and have fun with this. If you submit to an agent and they tell you no, don't give up. This actually happened to me. I submitted to an agent. They said no. I waited 6 months, submitted again, and they were at that point ready to take me. They needed another spot filled that was my type. So if they say no to you, don't get discouraged. Just try again. Now, if you're in a smaller market, your smaller agent might not go outside of a certain area. So they might have like a mile circumference. So right now I have an agent in my city, and then 100 miles or 200 miles or whatever, I have another agent. And so I have like 4 agents in the Midwest that don't bleed into each other's markets. So typically. Now, in larger markets or on the East or West Coast, the agencies are different. So wherever you live, you're going to have to know that market. And so if you're in like the East Coast, you might have to have an exclusive contract with that person, and they may cover 4 states. So you need to know that. Another thing to know is if they're SAG represented. So if you are a SAG actor, which means you've joined the union of SAG, Screen Actors Guild, and if you've joined that, then you want to make sure that you have an agency that is also a part of that industry, or that union, so that they will be looking for SAG projects for you. So those are all different things, but if you want to start with your city and do some Google searches. Now I will say that there are contracts that you will need to sign, and I would suggest that you read those contracts. There are certain markets that it is wrong for an agent to charge fees. So if you get an agency and you are asked to pay a certain fee, whether it's an annual fee or whatever, you need to find out what that fee is for, and ask around to see if there are if that's normal for that market, especially if you've never had an agent before in that market. Ask around some of your friends, Google it, do what have you. There are agencies that are starting to charge website fees for you to be up on your website. There's other, they call it administration fees, whatever. So you're just going to have to be okay with that. Like I said, in some markets, it is not, I don't necessarily want to use the word legal, but in some markets, it's not right. In other markets, there's nobody governing it, and so they use these terms that are different, website fees, administration fees, whatever. And sometimes there's no way around it except just you have to bite the bullet and do it if you want representation, because all the agents are doing it in that market. So that explains that. So make sure that you understand the contract, and make sure that, and you can amend it. I've had agents who will give me a contract and they'll amend it, or we'll talk about my specific needs and they'll adjust it. Now let's talk a little bit about managers. Managers are a little different than agents. Managers can help you actually manage your acting business. They can help you. They can give you tips. They can introduce you to talent agents. They can market you in a certain other area. They will charge you a fee. So that fee, if you have a manager, that fee will be on top of the fees that the agent will take. So like say you have an agent and you're non-union, every job that you do, they will take 20% of that job. So if it's $1,000, you do a commercial for $1,000, they will take 20%. Your check will be $800. Then on top of that, if you have an agent or a manager, then you pay that manager their fee on top of that. So you have to write them out a check from the $800 that you get. So there are pros and cons to everything. Some people don't have an agent, they only have a talent manager. Other people have both, and some people just have an agent. So anyway, hopefully all of that answers your questions regarding agency and what have you. But if you have just remember, if you are ready, if you have a headshot and a resume, and even if you've taken some classes, you're ready for a talent manager or talent agent. And so hopefully that gives you some insight. Now, why you are needing one if you're really trying to do this professionally, because here's what happens. If I'm at my house and I'm marketing myself and what have you, and on social media and marketing myself, whatever, not all the producers in town are going to know that. They might not necessarily have me as a connection on these social media websites like LinkedIn and all that. They might not know who I am, and yet they have connections to a talent agent. If I'm represented by a talent agent, then what they'll do is these producers will call the talent agent, and then they'll say, we need, a Caucasian lady who's, fits a mom role or whatever, and we need her for this day. Well, that talent agent will look through their roster, and they will submit all of those ladies that they feel would fit that job, and I may be included in on them. And that, my headshot, my resume, and all that gets sent to this producer, and they then choose who they want to audition. And I might get chosen to audition. If I get chosen to audition, then I'll submit my audition or go into my talent agent, and they'll tape it for me, and then they'll choose. If I didn't have an agent, I would miss out on a whole lot of jobs. Now, do I bank every single thing off of my agent? Is my business totally set on my agency? No, I don't put that kind of pressure on my agent. Now, if I'm hearing about jobs that I'm not getting submitted for, and I know that I fit that role, then I might question whether or not there's too many people on that talent roster, and maybe I'm getting overlooked. There's all kinds of things that go into picking a talent agent. But first and foremost, you got to have a relationship with them. And if you love your talent agent, then it's going to be a great win-win for you all the way around. They're people too, and be a friend to them. Encourage them just like you want to be encouraged, because they're out there hustling too, you hope. But hopefully that answers some questions for an agency. It's not scary, but now that we're on this third video, you should be prepared to get one. And so hopefully, yeah, let me know if you have any questions. Please feel free to give a thumbs up if you like this video and share it with your friends, certainly. And watch for the next one. We'll be talking more about other things in this series, so you want to be an actor. Have a great day.